welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Football. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. A wonderful sport. Something that brightens up the lives of all of us. Well, me anyway. Welcome back to the final D3D4 podcast of the regular season. Today, it's League 1 and 2 chat, as always, rounding up the playoff race in League 1, looking back at a final day in League 2 that ended up being rather unsurprising, actually, in many ways, but there's some great stories across the season. Before I get into any of it, I would just like to say thank you to everyone who listens to this. And it's been a very weird year, couple of years really, but I mean, in terms of a football season, you know, to have a entire campaign with no fans going to matches in stadiums, everyone watching on the rather bland platform, although much needed, has to be said, platform of iFollow. It's been strange. And thank you to all those who DM us and tell us that, you know, that the podcast keeps you going. I'm very pleased to get messages like that. I'm glad people find listening to us sort of lightheartedly chat about low league football. I think it's a pleasure to do it, and if it helps people, it's even better. And even myself, you know, it's quite cathartic doing this each week, just to give myself a break from what is a hectic life. And I hope, I hope everyone enjoys it. And a big thank you to the two gentlemen joining me yet again this week, Chris Stringer, who has been a superb colleague on this podcast since joining quite a while ago now. I think I can't even remember, Chris, when you jumped on board, but. You know, thank you for your efforts and your early rises on Sunday mornings to record the pod, and of course to Ed as well, who has come aboard and been, you know, a brilliant addition. And of course to Luke, if he's listening, for being the man who started this up with me. So big thank yous all round. Big thank yous to our patrons, of course, who make this possible, who help us fund the essentials of hosting this podcast and the website and stuff. So really good. How do I find you today, Chris Stringer?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. We didn't have much to play for yesterday, but it's been quite exciting to see the scores come in, and very much enjoyed a slower start this morning.
I'm still in shock that you finished with -9 goal difference when you scored, was it 72 goals you scored this season? That's quite something.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, my biggest disappointment is that we missed out on our regular 17th position.
Oh,
and I think, you know, that in itself means that a lot of people at the club need to look hard at themselves. Nothing else, just the fact that we didn't finish 17th.
Who did finish in 17th?
Harrogate. We got beaten by Harrogate to 17th place.
I think the EFL should look at a points deduction just to you know, we need equilibrium. We need something that's stable in life these days. Oldham finishing 17th in whatever division they're playing in is pretty much a given, isn't it?
I think it typifies the effect the pandemic's had on football this season.
Absolutely.
It's just caused complete turmoil.
Ridiculous. And Ed, not a great final day for you, but nothing.
Wait for the smugglers.
Well, no. In fact, the fact that Burton didn't have anything to play for on the last day of the season is probably better than you expected at some point and during the League One campaign. But how do we find you anyway?
Yeah. I don't really know what to say about that last day. Wasn't that fun to watch, but I think we'll go on to that. Chris's story about hoping Oldham finish 17th every season is quite depressing, to be honest.
Yeah, it makes you feel better about it.
You'd want a bit more from your own football club, wouldn't you, rather than finishing 17th every year, but it's, yeah. No, I'm alright. I'm okay. It's a bit of shame the season's over, because it only feels like it's really begun, really, and it's a shame we're going to have to wait, although we have got the playoffs coming up, so we can never complain about playoffs, they always deliver.
I think Scunthorpe fans will be very happy this season's over, along with a few other teams as well, frankly. But anyway, yes, it was an interesting final day in League One. We are recording this, I don't know when the matches finished, an hour ago maybe, something like that. So we haven't seen all the highlights of the final games, but frankly, there weren't that many that meant a lot. But let's jump in and start in League One.
League One.
And going into the start of play, all Portsmouth had to do to secure themselves a playoff spot was to beat Accrington, a team mid-table with I mean, I say inverted commas, nothing to play for, because I don't really think football teams who have nothing to gain from winning or losing ever lie down or drop down tools particularly.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think there's plenty of examples of that.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't think a John... Okay, I'll rephrase it. I don't think a John Coleman side necessarily...
Okay,
There we go.
yeah, okay, then fine. I don't think a John Coleman side necessarily would do that. But in the end, I mean, I think I'm starting a GoFundMe page to not only buy beers for Toby Savin, but I'm seriously thinking we should get a statue made of him and put it in that awful car park behind the fence end at the Kassam Stadium, just because, you know, he's a hero now. He's an Oxford United. He's probably our player of the season, frankly. Brilliant performance from him. But if you're a Portsmouth fan, just how disappointing is that to end the season? I mean, come on, Ed. This is a team that we knew. I mean, bearing in mind this is not Danny Cowley's team, but to lose and struggle to not even score a goal, it's a pretty depressing end to the campaign for Portsmouth, isn't it?
You're a bit lost for words by it, aren't you, really, with what's happened? I haven't seen the game back. I've seen the goal. You give Adam Phillips that amount of time in the box, you're asking for trouble. We know that from his time at Morecambe, and he's got the important goal for Accrington. I just don't really understand how they've blown this. It's difficult. I remember the Cowleys coming in feeling really confident about it, that they could get themselves... I think they were a bit outside the playoffs at the time. Could get themselves back into there, got themselves back into the mix, and then to throw it away all on the last day, like you say, to a team that you probably would expect them to be, even though I know that the game they had at Accrington a little while ago ended with a 3-3 draw, if I recall right. They couldn't even win that one. But that's just really disappointing from a Pompey perspective.
I mean, how big is that own goal that John Marquis scored at Accrington as well?
That makes all the difference now. But you could say that about every game all season. You could point to moments in every game and every season and say, oh, that's a significant point. It's wrong to really focus it down on one game, even though most of us will do it.
You trying to tell me, Ed, that the points you accrue over the entire season matter?
Apparently.
Wow.
That's what I've heard.
That's big. That is big.
That is big.
Yeah.
It's a discovery I recently found.
I messaged my friend before and he just replied, mark this out. And I do wonder after the past few weeks, I said it early in the season, I get they've had some injuries and stuff, but I don't get why they keep playing Marquis on his own.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, especially in a game where you need to win. I mean, it's strange. But I mean, you look at that team; they should have won. They should have made the playoffs. Portsmouth, no doubt in my mind that they should.
It's a strong squad. It's a strong squad.
Yeah, I mean, on the bench they had like Sean Raggett, Geordie Huwula. You know, I don't know if Andy Cannon started on the bench today. I think he did. So they've got a strong team. It's just they didn't do enough on the final day to get into the. And
it's a limp way to go. I was saying before we started recording, it's just a limp way to go. No disrespect to Accrington, but to lose 1-0 at home to Accrington on the final game of the season, it's not even like... I don't know that they've managed to get a couple of goals and it's just not quite gone their way on the day. It just feels very limp. Indeed,
but let's give Accrington their dues, though. This is the highest they've finished since returning to the EFL in 2006, isn't it? And
yeah,
what a campaign it's been. I mean, at one point, I think we were thinking they could be
we were.
outside the playoffs. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And they're having some stadium redevelopments, I think, as well.
They are, yes.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, they've done superbly well. They've missed a few key players at important times as well this season. But you looked at the team that started today. I mean, Adam Phillips, Sean McConville, Colby Bishop, Dion Charles, players like this in that team have excelled. You know, I mean, McConville's done it for years and deserves all the credit he gets for how he plays and how he's basically been part of that core group that have helped that team rise through the divisions. I mean, Nottingham, bringing a player in like Nottingham, who was obviously at Crewe at the end of last season, he's played a big part in their season. He's been excellent. And, you know, I just look at, I think, you know, like David Morgan in there. I think Jonathan Russell played as well in the side today, sort of in the number 10 role perhaps. And yeah, it's just a credit. It's a huge credit. Accrington Stanley, a team with definitely the lowest budget in this division. I would definitely say that.
I think so.
Chilling about that.
Yes.
Perhaps only Wimbledon are akin.
Yeah, I reckon Wimbledon probably a bigger one than Accrington. Only Rochdale perhaps. I don't know, but you look at teams with little spending power, and yet you see produce results year in year out, and John Coleman gets that out of Accrington. Just incredible business that they've done. I mean, you look at the two they had up front today against Portsmouth. A team that are hugely out muscling them in the financial department, and they got both their strikers from non-league. Ed, you'll remember where they come from. Was it Southport and Leamington or something? It was like that?
Southport and Leamington. Yeah, this is what John Coleman does. He's just a master at picking out non-league gems, because there are non-league gems out there. There are plenty of players in non-league that could handle the step up to the Football League. It's just a case of finding them, and Accrington are one of the best around to doing it. Yeah,
superb. So well done, Accrington. And from the bottom of my heart, on a personal note, thank you. It's just
I better be getting thanks as well, by the way.
Yes, well, you will be. I mean, I'm just glad that I've actually found that there is something uglier than Burton's away kit, and it's a pair of shoes owned by Chris Stringer. So there you go.
That's very harsh.
I haven't seen these shoes. Where are they?
I've showed him. I got a pair of running shoes last week, and I don't think they're that bad.
He thinks they're high fashion. We'll get this out.
I will say, I didn't say they were the height of fashion. I said I quite like them, but I didn't buy them for fashion. I bought them to run in.
Yeah, but they're still the ugliest pair of shoes I've seen.
I think you're being harsh on them there.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Well, we'll put this to a Twitter test. We'll get it out on Twitter.
Okay.
But it's quite impressive, because I didn't think I'd see anything quite so bland as that Burton away kit. And it is officially grey, apparently.
This is what, Rob, if you are listening to this, I'm really unhappy with you, because you've ruined my argument now, because you've provided evidence of it. I'm really unhappy about that.
Yeah, cheers,
I've got
Rob,
no legs to stand on anymore.
His platinum argument is just
it's completely gone out the window.
Yeah.
I've got no legs to stand on now.
Podium to come up next or something. Just go through the list of medals.
That's it. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's a great kit, and it was a great performance from Burton in total. Really, I mean, Oxford 4-0 win. All we had to do is win, and you have to say we started well. Sam Winnell, though, have you guys seen the Sam Winnell strike? If you haven't seen it, it's lovely. It's sort of the ball bounces on a half volley. He's sort of on the edge of the penalty area, maybe a bit further out, 25 yards, maybe 30 yards, and he just hits this dipping volley that loops over the goalkeeper from the edge of the box or 30 yards. It's a brilliant goal. Rounded up the afternoon, a 4-0 win. But actually, there is grey clouds to match Burton's away kit in the Oxford camp after that, because
stop mentioning the kit.
It's terrible, mate.
You need to keep bringing up the kit.
It's offensive. If Manchester United if Manchester United wore that in the 90s, they would have had to. They'd have used it as an excuse.
They did, didn't they? They did have a great kit, didn't they?
They'd have used it as an excuse as why they lost to Southampton 6-3 away from home at the Dell.
I'm sure they did, didn't they?
Yeah, on a green pitch.
The camouflage.
Yeah, right. You can't see a grey kit on a green pitch. Makes sense.
I remember it very well. It was very funny. They came out in a blue kit in the second half and still lost the second half, so I don't know really.
So we're going to come out with blue and white stripes presumably next season now. It's what's going to be the away kit.
I don't know, but Sam Long went in for what was, he went to try and nick the ball off the Burton man, and he'd done his hamstring, and you could see he was in tears, the poor kid. I mean, he's had
It's not the time to get injured, is it? Just as you make the playoffs.
No, and he's such an important player for us. He's grown into that role. It's so sad to see that happen. And then Elliot Lee goes off as well. Might be the last we see of him in an Oxford shirt. So, well, and we've got blooming Blackpool in the playoffs. I mean, that's the one team you don't want in the playoffs.
How Blackpool have ended up third? Where?
Well, it was always a possibility that if
I just love this game.
Down tools. Yeah, exactly. If Peterborough down tools, we were thinking Blackpool could be an outside chance for Automatics. But I did tweet out the amount of points that Blackpool have taken against the other top 7 or whatever sides in this division, top 8 I think it was, and it's impressive. I mean, they are undoubtedly by a long way the best team. I think they took, when I did it, about 27 points from whatever it was. It is a very impressive tally against the best teams in this division. That puts them, and when I saw Oxford play them earlier this season, they swatted us aside rather easily. So they're not the team I want to play in the playoffs, frankly. And I think, they are the team you'd go in and think, oh, it's hard to see them getting beat. Playoffs are never as simple as that, as we all know, but they are the one team, and they beat Bristol Rovers 1-0 today to, like you say, secure third spot. Ed, it's been a wonderful season for Neil Critchley's side, hasn't it? No way, or no holes barred about it. It's been probably better than anyone expected.
Yeah, I think I seem to remember it took a bit of a while to get going, though, didn't it? We had a lot of high hopes at the start of the season with the influx of players they had. And it did take a bit of a while to get going. You were kind of unsure if they were actually going to match where we hoped, but they really have. And I agree with you, they're so impressive. What's interesting, if you actually look at their goal scoring against columns, there's only Crewe in the top half that have scored less than them. They've got 60 goals so far. Crewe have got 56. But their defensive record is better than anyone else in the whole league with 37 conceded. So they don't necessarily blow you away. They're just capable of getting those wins every time and stopping you at the other end.
I think that we talk about best goalkeepers. You talked about Burke, wasn't it, last week? And I know he got into the official, team of the season.
Still can't believe that. Actually.
Yeah, fair enough. Whatever.
That was funny.
I put together I always put together the Instat teams of the week each week and the team of the season. And stats are flawed, and it was proven.
My favourite was when you didn't get Will Grigg in there.
That was my fault.
No Will Grigg after scoring 4 goals.
He scored 4. He's not been that good this week.
That's my fault. Yeah, he'd only played 55 minutes, which made it even worse. 55 minutes, 4 goals. Anyway, we digress. The fact about Chris Maxwell is he is the best goalkeeper in the division. I think. The fact that he wasn't in the team of the season shows how flawed the stats are in many ways, and the fact that Johnson Clark-Harris didn't get in the Instat team of the season and was frankly well beaten by, I think it was Siriki Dembele and Brennan Johnson, just shows that there is some adjustments needed to the Instat index.
And Bambula didn't make it in League 2.
Oh, here he goes.
I'm going to be... Don't worry, I'll be writing to Instat about this.
18th, Chris. 18th.
We've had one good thing, let me have it.
He is a very...
McCallany in there over him, anyway.
Sorry?
I think...
I'll put McCallany in there.
Yeah, McElhaney's done...
He's had a great season.
Yeah, I think Alfie McCalmont's done quite well. I've got a bit bored of just tweeting out the same gag every time he scores a goal. I don't know why he's doing that. But, Alfie McCalmont has been good. He's got like 7 goals, I think. Anyway, look, we're talking about Blackpool. What are we doing? Terrible. We are just getting off track as we always do. Anyway, Blackpool, like I say, Chris Maxwell has been superb. You talk about the goals conceded. He's a big part of why they've got such a good defensive record. But overall, their team, this is a team, I think, weren't we very worried about their defence at the start of the campaign?
Yeah, we were, because I seem to remember there were a lot of left-sided players and not so many right-sided defenders in that team.
I think we had a
joke at one point they were going to go up entirely up the left-hand flank and just leave the right flank completely open. But no, I think there's going to be a really nice balance in this team.
And the fact that people forget the injuries they've had, like CJ Hamilton he's been ruled out for the season. I don't think Gary Medine's had as much game time as you'd want for him because he's been out. Really, really strange, but Pateta's been good. Thornley's been good. Ballard's been good when he plays as well. I think Husband is always a very reliable left back. And he was in the side today. You got Sims, who I think we talked about being the chap that's born in Oldham Hospital. Ellis Sims. He's an impressive guy to be able to bring into this team off the bench. You've just got a nice depth and a nice feel to this side. They play a lovely style. I think Neil Critchley's showing that he's grown into the role. Difficult start, but that aside, they fully deserve to be in this position. So they go into the playoffs as the team that I'm most worried about. And frankly, if Oxford lose them, they lose them. I'm just proud that Oxford managed to make it the playoffs. Mid-December, we were only outside the relegation zone on goal difference. So crazy, absolutely crazy. The other two sides in there. Sunderland, who drew 1-1 with Northampton. We talk about Sunderland and their 1-1 curse, but that is not the result you want to finish on just before you go into the playoffs, is it, Chris?
I think 1 win in 6 is a fantastic bit of momentum to have.
Yeah.
I was pleased to see Carl Winchester on the score sheet. That's
positive.
But yeah, they are just limping their way into the playoffs. The two ones that you would have thought would have been nailed on at the start of the season, Portsmouth and Sunderland. Well, Portsmouth have managed to drop off, and Sunderland are in there on virtue of a good run when Johnson took over. And I know they've had one or two injuries, but they need to find a little bit more going into these playoff games, because they'll lose to Lincoln with the form they're on.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a Lincoln Blackpool final if you ask me now, as I sort of sit here with my non-yellow hat on.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem Sunderland's home form. I mean, it's 11th best in League One. That sums up why I just have little confidence in them. Away from home, they're in the top four or whatever. They take 42 points on the road, which is not bad at all. I think Lincoln's the best with 45. So, they're only 3 points off the side that's taken the most points in the division. But at home, I mean, it's such a sort of average home record. And obviously with no fans, you could say that's part of the problem. But I don't think necessarily Sunderland fans would say it's just this season.
Well, after the last couple of seasons, the Stadium of Light, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic. You can have a fantastic atmosphere,
Yeah.
but when the performances turn poor.
No, I completely agree with Chris on that. It can go properly sour if the away team starts winning there, because of previous history with the club. It's changing now. I do think things are certainly starting to get more positive with that club in the future. And even if this season is the one where they go up, I still feel quite bright about them going forwards. But
I do now the wage cap's gone.
Yeah, definitely.
I do.
But I do think that is has been a stadium in the past, where if you go there as an away team and you get in front, it's often quite hard for that Sunderland team to pull it back.
Yeah, indeed. But like you say, that if you don't listen to the Price of Football podcast, you probably should. And the team, I think that they put as the most financially wasteful in Premier League history, they had as Sunderland, I think, because
they spent a huge amount.
They spent ridiculous money to basically now be in League One.
I mean, that was sort of their problem though, because they were fairly comfortably Premier League for 10 years.
They had several years though, didn't they, where they flirted with relegation? And then eventually it just dropped.
And that was the thing; they'd spent quite a lot of money to be mid-table, bottom half, relegation scrap.
Well, wasn't it 2 years ago they still had Jack Rodwell on? Was it Rodwell they had in their books in League One?
It was,
it was, wasn't it?
Well, he was on 55 a week, 55 grand a week.
That's ridiculous.
And of course, Catamol, till not long ago, was on a tasty wage for League One.
Yeah, but at least Catamol actually contributed something.
Well, that's true.
I can't recall Rodwell ever playing for him.
I don't.
He was a prime example of why you don't, when you're playing regularly as a in a decent team like Everton, you don't go to Man City. It's destroyed his career.
And it makes the argument even clearer that you need to bring in relegation wage drop clauses.
They had a lot of mercenaries, didn't they? Let's be honest. They had so many mercenaries.
There were some bad decisions made.
Oh, rubbish. Anyway, back to this season. They play Lincoln in the playoffs. Lincoln finished the season with a 0-0 draw against AFC Wimbledon. Again, I think really for Lincoln, the way that game finished against Peterborough kind of just took the wind out of them a bit. But they've got to reset themselves and go again in the playoffs. They've got a very good side. I love their youthful and exuberant and energetic forward line. I think they've got a very good defensive lineup if they get their players back fit. Liam Bridcut coming back in, playing a few more matches to keep him fit. You're looking at a very strong team. I mean, for Lincoln to finish 5th this season, for me personally, it's very disappointing. I had them 3rd, so I think they should sack Appleton actually.
Oh, look where Doncaster finished, just on predictions.
Oh, here he goes.
Oh, yes.
When did Sunderland finish, Chris?
I predicted them 2nd, so I don't think them finishing 2 below it's too bad.
I thought you had them top.
I'm
pretty sure you said top.
He did.
I might have. Maybe I had Hull 2nd, so them going 1st makes up for it.
Yeah, terrible. To be fair, I think I had Cambridge like bottom, so we'll say nothing more about our personal predictions. Yeah, indeed. What a season they've had. We'll come on to them shortly. Anyway, rounding up the sort of the last bits and pieces in League One. Crewe 3-2 win against Shrewsbury Town last game of the season. Doncaster finished the season as we expected. A 4-1 defeat at home to Peterborough. They really do need to look at changing. But before we leave the Doncaster narrative, James Coppinger, legend. I'll say no more. What a player he's been, though. Absolutely brilliant.
Icon.
Yeah, wonderful. So sad to see him decide to. I mean, he could carry on playing forever, probably. He's just so good. But Gillingham beat.
695 games was it in the end?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And how many years at Doncaster? 17, 18 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
17 years. You just don't get players like that anymore. Not in the era of 1-year contracts. It's very unlikely we'll see something like that again. But you never know. Gillingham beat Plymouth 1-0. A great season really for the Gills, all things considered. Plymouth ending. I think they just need the season to be over. To be honest, they've stayed up. They now need to have a look at rebuilding for next season and going again. I think Ryan Lowe for me is still the right guy to take them forward. They're huge potential. Argyle are as a club, but they'll be a bit disappointed, I think, in the end with where they finished. Ipswich Town beat Fleetwood Town 3-1. Good for Paul Cook's side to finish on a positive note, but there's going to be a lot of change at Portman Road, I feel, over the summer. Paul Cook will, frankly, sweep the decks and start again, and I think he's got such a good pedigree. He'll do well. Rochdale beat MK Dons 3-0. Final day of the season. They'll be a strong side, I think, in League Two next season if they keep to their current philosophy. They can just shore up defensively a little bit. And Wigan, I mean, to be fair, I thought Wigan won.
So did I. When did this change?
Yeah, exactly.
It's really caught me out.
2 goals in stoppage time from Swindon, and they've beaten Wigan 4-3. So Swindon go down with at least a bit of positivity. But the truth about Swindon, as we've discussed, is they need things off the pitch sorted and as quickly as possible. It's absolute shambles. And I said it before, they're Oxford's rivals. I always like seeing Oxford get one over them, of course, but not in this respect. This is ridiculous. Football clubs need protecting. Owners like Lee Power should just not be allowed to own football clubs. Just ridiculous. I think there was a fan survey which showed that Exeter were the best at interacting with their fans. Fan engagement survey. Carlisle came second.
Oldham came out 10th in that, I think.
That survey needs ripping up there.
Something outrageously high.
Yeah, I think Swindon came bottom, though, to be honest, of that.
Yeah.
Frankly, that when the people owning the club say they're not going to talk to the Supporters Trust or anyone else, for that matter, about the club, there's a problem. And
I say it every week. I still don't understand how they've ended up in this specific mess. It's
proper dodgy. It's proper dodgy. There's so many FA rules being broken here. The fact that a footballer can't own a club, yet it appears that one has done so. If he hasn't done so, he's done it through his agent, and agents are also not allowed to own football clubs. So how is that?
No, but when they give up the agency, it can go really well.
Yes, it does. Cheltenham, of course, beat Hull just to miss out on the playoffs. If Oxford or Portsmouth won, they had no chance really, Charlton. So, but I'm really excited for their summer and their season ahead. New ownership. Nigel Adkins is a great coach. This is going to be, I think, a really interesting sort of 18 months coming up for Charlton and their fans. And
there's a lot of big clubs that you look at, like traditionally big clubs in this league, that you look at are rebuilding just in time for next season.
Yes, if it wasn't for Rotherham conceding in the last minute, we would have had Derby and Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm genuinely already looking. I know the League One lineup isn't fully confirmed yet, but I'm looking at it thinking, I can't pick a bottom 4 out of this. It feels like there's more teams with quality than there are teams that generally don't look good enough to stay up. It could actually be a generally very high quality league next season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it could be. Who wants to put a bet on that Sheffield Wednesday goes straight through into League Two as well? That'd be quite an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Right, are they in that much of a state?
Well, I don't think they are, personally. But it's not unheard of. It's not an easy division. We'll see. But, yeah.
I'm based in Leeds these days, so I wouldn't mind going there because it is a brilliant stadium. I know there's the rather dark history, but in terms of a football ground, it is really quite an impressive place to go.
It is indeed. And it's going to be fun covering a team like Sheffield Wednesday. I think Rotherham fans think they have this wonderful sense of entitlement, so it's going to be fun on Twitter, that's for sure. Anyway, let's round up the season. I almost forgot to do the League One table. I suppose we should sort of polish where teams all finished, seeing as the season is now finally over. 46 games played. Thankfully, we did get to the end of this season, which is you never thought you'd say that's a blessing, but it is, considering what the world's been through. But Hull finished top, Peterborough finished second, the playoffs, Blackpool third, brilliant result for them, Sunderland fourth, Lincoln fifth, Oxford sixth, Charlton seventh, Portsmouth eighth, Ipswich ninth, Gillingham finished 10th, Accrington 11th, Crewe mid-table in 12th, not a bad campaign all things considered. MK Dons in 13th. Doncaster ended up finishing 14th. Wow, a big drop off from them considering where they were. Fleetwood 15th. Burton 16th. I mean, that's an achievement considering we all thought you'd finish bottom for a long time. Shrewsbury 17th. Pretty much shoe in for 17th most of the time. Shrewsbury Town. Plymouth 18th. Wimbledon 19th. Wigan, the story of the season, finishing in 20th. 1 point they managed to stay up by in the end. Rochdale 21st, Northampton 22nd, Swindon managed to avoid finishing bottom, considering all their problems. They finished 23rd, and Bristol Rovers plumb bottom of League One. Right, let's move on into League Two.
League Two.
And League Two, Cheltenham finally got their title, fully deserved. Michael Duff doing a wonderful job, got manager of the season, and I know people think Derek Adams deserved it, and I can see that argument, but frankly, I don't think you can argue.
It normally goes to the league winner, doesn't it? These manager of the year awards, to be honest.
It does pretty much every time, but I think there are cases where it doesn't deserve to go to the title winner. But in this case, people are saying, well, it should go to Morecambe's manager Derek Adams because they've got a smaller budget, but Cheltenham don't have a big budget either. Let's be honest.
He's a close second, Derek Adams, but it's got to go to Michael Duff. You're right.
There's a solid argument for either, really. I think.
Yeah.
I think Mark Bonner as well deserves.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, this is his first full season as a manager, and he's taken Cambridge, who, did their best to avoid promotion. You have to say, but finally got over the line with a 3-0 win against Grimsby on the final day. It's some very promising young managers in the lower leagues, and I think we're very good at breeding good coaches and good managers at this level. They never really get a chance to go much higher, and I think that needs to be looked at some point. I think there are a lot of managers who've given the chance, and we saw it with people like Sean Dyche, I suppose. Eddie Howe did it for a while with Bournemouth. Chris Wilder. There are very good coaches that can go right the way to the top. And maybe that culture will change in English football. Not sure, but we'll see. But Cheltenham, 4-1 win over Harrogate, seals them title, thoroughly deserved. A wonderful campaign it's been, with a relatively small squad, but a high-octane football philosophy, a high-octane way of playing. People who talk about them being a long-throw team haven't watched them, and I won't entertain that argument any further on this pod. They are a very good side. They've got a very settled way of playing. It works well for them. They play to their strengths, and they deserve to go up as champions, and well done to them. Cambridge finished in second place. I mean, this is a remarkable story, really. Cambridge United returning to this level for the first time in 16 years. I mean, 2002 was it, or something like that?
2001-02, I believe, was the last time they were in League One.
Yeah. It was Lionel Perez, the goalkeeper. I looked him up. Long-haired chap.
And you were taking the mick before out of your own prediction, but I think all three of us had them at least bottom half.
I think I had them just at the top of the bottom half, 13th.
Oh,
I mean,
what a show off.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying that's good in any way. It's miles off where they've finished, but if I can take a bit of credit for having them higher than anyone else, I'm taking it.
Well, indeed, yeah. But I mean, it has been a superb campaign for the U's. I mean, Paul Mullin, he scored 9 league goals in the campaign before this. That's his most he's ever scored. I think was that Morecambe? I think he scored 9. He scored 32 goals. He broke the record of goals scored in League Two.
He did 39.
He's almost scored more than they conceded all season.
He's matched many teams. In fact, he's bettered a lot of the...
He has actually bettered. He's bettered Southend's goal total.
Paul Mullin.
Southend only scored 29.
Paul Mullin has scored more goals than Southend this season.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and it's it's hard to find words to describe what Mark Bonner has done because it's rather understated, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be understated. He's taken a team that, if you looked at how they were playing under previous regimes, under Colin Calderwood, and they're going back to who's the manager before Colin Calderwood?
Colin Calderwood feels like it was a decade ago now.
Doesn't it just?
It was only last season, and it really feels like it was just so long ago now. It's ridiculous.
Who was the manager before that? It was Sean Derry. Sean Derry was there, wasn't he? Yeah, I mean, if you talk to Cambridge fans who watched Colin Calderwood, Sean Derry era and said, oh, by the way, in 2020-21 you'll finish second, Mark Bonner will be your manager, you'll score 73 goals, you'll get 80 points from 46 games, they'd be like, you're just drunk, mate, shut up, But
they bettered our goal total in the end. That was the one thing we had.
Yeah.
they scored one more goal than us.
Yeah, they did. I mean, very, very impressive. And Bolton, of course, we all thought they'd have a strong campaign. And indeed, let's not take away too much the fact that they should have had a strong campaign with the squad that they had. But on the 6th of February, they were 20th.
They turned it round superbly.
They finished third.
Yeah. It's disappointing because I was enjoying laughing at them being in 20th, but all credit to Ian Everett and the work they've done at Bolton, especially after last season, where we were worried that they wouldn't exist.
Exactly.
And so to be getting promoted, they can meet up with Wigan next season, which is that'll be good fun. It is fantastic.
It's amazing. They beat Crawley, just for the record, 4-1 on the last day of the season. Sarcevic scoring a brilliant goal to open the scoring. Owen Doyle getting on the score sheet. Ed, how many goals did he finish on?
He's finished on 19. So he's really not far from repeating what he did with Swindon last year. He's was brought into the goals and he's done that. Second top scorer in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Pipped by Matt J for the Instat football team of the season. And I was having to think about this. Who would you rather have in your side, Matt J or Owen Doyle? And I would probably lean to Matt J just because of one, age, and two, Doyle only works if you play a very specific style of football. As we saw with Bradford, he was just not the kind of.
Still upsets me how badly they used him.
Yeah, it's not right.
Still upsets me that they had him, Vaughan, and Donaldson at the same time going into that season last year. But
oh, God, they did, didn't they?
Anyway, let's not talk Bradford.
Yeah, indeed. So Bolton, superb way to finish the season. 16 wins in their last 22 matches. I mean, that is incredible.
Yeah.
That's an incredible record. Huge credit to them. Great signings. I think Kieran Lee was an amazing addition.
MJ Williams as well.
Yeah, MJ Williams partnered him in that sort of deep role. The change to the 4-2-3-1 was vital because I think they were too expansive. They were playing
and getting Matt Gilks in goal over Billy Cronin as well, getting that experience in there, that's really helped as well.
Yeah, and getting Baptiste and Santos looking like a sort of a good partnership at centre back because they didn't at the start of the season. Santos finished in the Instat team of the season. I can't remember if did he finish in the real one, the actual team of the season?
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. I mean,
what do you mean the actual one? Ours is the actual one.
Ours is the real one. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, the official, I should call it, the official League One team of the season. But I think the fact that he ended up being such a colossally important player for them, and they had an excellent partnership for that second half of the season. It was severely lacking for a lot of that opening. When you look at the goals they conceded, if you go back now and look at the Bolton side that you had before February the 6th, they were terrible. Like, the goals they were conceding were amateurish. They were just making mistakes all over the place. Like Edgy said, Billy Cronin had a few poor games. I still don't think it excuses Ian Evatt for the way he spoke about him. But, you have to give the manager credit for making that change.
You hope something was said behind the doors in addition to that public comment, don't you?
Yeah, indeed. And credit where credit's due. Bolton go up, and they go up automatically. The playoffs, in the end, Morecambe, crazy season for them, absolutely unbelievable. I think, if it wasn't for Wigan, they'd be the story of the EFL this season. Just because we're so used to seeing them scrape survival season in, season out. They finished 1 point outside the automatic promotion places, and they possibly, if they hadn't had that collapse against Bolton where Kelvin Mellor got sent off, and in fact if they hadn't had so many sendings off this season, I think they would have gone up automatically. So
Did I hear on Quest yesterday that I had a point and the point's just gone out of my head?
Oh, that's good.
we're so professional.
Oh.
If it does, waft its way back in between that space in between your ears, then let us know. But in the end,
This is why we do this early in the morning, because we're more focused then. We had too long to relax, and now we're doing it midday. We're off track. Sorry.
it's sunny. Oxford in the playoffs. I just don't care about anything else at the moment.
Do you want to mention that anymore?
No, yeah, mate, I'm going to mention it until we get absolutely hammered by Blackpool in the first and second leg of the playoffs. But yeah, no, for me, Morecambe, wonderful team, wonderful story, and he's done it on a small budget. We all know that, but he's actually done it with players who, when I looked at that squad at the start of the season, you're thinking, well, they're all right, but then they're not automatic promotion contenders, but they blooming well were. I mean, Cole Stockton's a transformed player. Carlos Mendes Gomez is one of the best players in the division. Nathaniel Knights Percival, if you saw him play for Bradford, the fact he's actually a good centre back, or indeed Carlisle, the fact he's playing so well for Morecambe is amazing. Their midfield, Songo'o, Diego Raga, these guys have been just, they've just been brilliant. They've just been a brilliant team. Aaron Wildig's been the best I think I've seen him. I think John Sullivan
as well. They lost Adam Phillips in the winter, and you kind of wondered they'd lose that massive creative output. I think they've been better.
They have.
I think they've been better since he's gone, which is weird to say about a guy who's looking one of the division's best midfielders.
And they didn't really replace him. Like, they brought in Denny from Salford,
really.
But they got the best out of John Sullivan before he got injured. I think Jordan Slew, before he was injured, indeed he looked very useful in matches where he got opportunities. They've been superb. I think Gibson's done well at left back. Whether or not Hendry has to play because he's had injury problems, hasn't he? But yeah, I mean it's. I think Lethrin is an important player. Signing him coming in when they had problems with injuries in goal. And I think, who was their goal? It was a chap on loan from Newcastle, wasn't it? Who was recalled.
Yeah, Jake Turner. If you remember going back to the very start of the season, they played Cambridge at home, second week I think it was. Got beaten 5-0. They've finished 2 points behind them.
Crazy. It's brilliant. I mean, absolutely. I take my hat off to
Incredible
Morecambe.
how much he turned around. Brilliant.
Not just like that particular result, but just the whole season. They've been. You look how they play. They play wonderful football as well. It shows what you can do with a well-run club on a good budget or on a small budget, but with a good philosophy, a good manager, good coach, and determination. Been brilliant. Also joining them in the playoffs on Newport. It was in doubt for a while, and they drew at Southend on the last day of the season. So, but I think Mike Flynn's done a great job there. They had a lot of things to contend with this year. The pitch was awful for a lot of it. They lost, Scott Twine and was it Brandon Cooper went back to Swansea, didn't he?
Yeah.
So they've had some key players plucked away from them in important moments. I think to rally them and get them into the playoffs. Forest Green, credit, they got rid of Cooper and they finished in the playoffs, which is what they were concerned about. And they've done it in a season where they've sold Carl Winchester, they've sold Liam Kitchen, they've got Jamil Matt out for the season with an injury, they've lost Nicky Cadden for the run-in, and I think they've got someone else long term. Elliot Whitehouse, I think, is long term now as well. He's out for the season, so they've done well to make it into the playoffs. And Tranmere, I don't know, the fact they were clinging on, I think, shows that they had a big reliance on James Vaughan. He was back in the lineup. I hope he's fit, because I think my opinion on Tranmere is they've kind of relied on him to be a force in these playoffs. I'm not sure what you think, Ed.
I still really like their midfield unit. I still think it's one of the best around. The fluidity of it, the fact that some of them can be out wide or in more defensive positions or in more attacking positions, but the notice without Vaughan. Like when they had Vaughan and they were flying through goals, it looked like Vaughan was probably going to finish second behind Pompey on the scoring charts, and Tranmere were probably going to break top three. And losing him, it's just been so noticeable. Yeah,
I agree. And to be honest, if apart from the fact Morecambe would be a fairy tale and I'd like them to go up because of that, the only team I really will back in these playoffs is Tranmere, because of what happened last season. I mean, it was outrageous. So I do wish them the best, and I do hope they have a good playoff run and a good campaign. I mean, nothing against any of the other teams in there. Forest Green, Newport, I just think the one team with the burning injustice still hanging over them, a bit like Peterborough, who've gone up. Darren McAntony, when people were saying about, Sammy Smollett's died, he was like, cry me a river. Who cares about Sammy Smollett's diving in the last game when we basically were robbed of an opportunity last year? And I can see that with Tranmere as well. So, but they are the team. Their fans are not yet convinced about Keith Hill. Still, there's a lot of discontent about him, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean that's his character though, isn't it? He's obviously had a close relationship with the fans at Rochdale.
Do you think the fact he has a history with Bolton has played a part in that? Do you think there's some people who still matter?
Probably, but I think he had it a bit at Barnsley as well. I mean, I think the less said it, the better about his time at Barnsley. But in terms of his personality, he does split people.
Mm.
He comes across as painfully dull to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I also think, if you look at the end of the season that they've had, it's been far from convincing in the end. I mean, they've won 2 since March the 23rd, and that's it, So it's been a rather stuttering end of the campaign.
It is the funniest manager announcement ever.
It will always be. I think that'll take some beating.
Straight after a 5-0 win.
Yes, exactly.
Straight after a 5-0 win, you announce that.
Okay, so come on, playoffs then. So we're sort of backing a Lincoln Blackpool final in League One. I'm backing Blackpool to probably go up. What do we think in League Two then?
I'm backing Morecambe v Forest Green. Morecambe to go up.
I think Tranmere will take the injustice of last season and will beat Morecambe. So I'm going Tranmere Forest Green and Tranmere to go up.
I'll go Tranmere Newport in the final and Tranmere to repeat the feat of, was it 2 years ago they beat them in the final?
Why do you not hate Morecambe?
I love Morecambe. I love Morecambe.
I generally, out of those 4, this might come back and bite me, but the only one that 4 I'm actually happy with being in the playoffs is Morecambe. I think the other 3 have scraped their way in.
If you actually want Morecambe to win, why would you say that?
Because I want to get something right for once with playoffs, because I remember how bad it was last season. I want to get this right now. I want to get this right.
I frankly would love to see Morecambe go up, but
me too.
I would. The only team I'd like to see go up more than them.
I do understand your reasoning. I do understand it.
I just think that it was unfair last season. They could have at least let them have a play out or something. Playing against Northampton for the right to play in League One.
I mean, your suggestion of actually having a quarter-final and a semi-final like they do in the National League was quite sensible.
Well, I think for League One it would have been absolutely fair, because then Peterborough and Sunderland, who were they were 2 points off the automatics or something when it all finished. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and it wouldn't have been that. No one would have complained. It wasn't the Ipswich let everyone from the bottom to the top play a playoff. I mean, that's stupid. But yeah, it would have been fair. In the other results, Exeter drew 1-1. They just missed out on the playoffs. I have to say, though, regardless of them missing out, they've had a great season of blooding youth players, getting young players in. Matt Jay's had his best season to date. Joel Randall has been superb.
Love Jack Sparks and Josh Key.
Yeah, Josh Key. So yeah, and I think even Hartridge. Is it Alex Hartridge?
Yeah.
I do apologise to all listeners. I'm terrible with first names, so I get them wrong all the time. So if I refer to players as their surnames only, it's because I know that I'm going to mess up their first names. So
I know what you mean, John.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I was waiting for that gag. But Exeter, a positive season of getting youth players through. I think they'll be all the stronger for it next year, and they'll have a better budget next year because they've got the Ollie Watkins money. They're a very well run club. They didn't overexpend in January. They weren't silly. So I think Matt Taylor's already said that they're going to go for it next season. So fair play. Look forward to that. Salford sacking Richie Wellens did not work. And
we talked about the manager of the season before. They've had the seasons of manager.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It is now. I'm giving it them. If you could have more managers than Oldham in a season, you deserve special recognition.
That's true, yeah. Bloody hell. Just to let that absorb into your being. They've had more managers than Oldham this season. That's ridiculous. and they still didn't make the playoffs, which, with their budget is a big failure. It's a big failure.
We did our part in ensuring it. By losing to Forest Green. It was all a plan.
It was wonderful. Stars aligned for it. But yeah, I don't have much sympathy for them because I think Richie Wellens probably would have got them in the playoffs. And I think if not, he would have probably taken them up automatically next season. So
I don't know how I feel about them getting playoffs this season, but definitely you give Richie Wellens a summer to build. They didn't need much additions anyway this summer, maybe a couple in deep at midfield, but he could have sent that squad up as champions next year.
And they'll be changing managers again, I assume, because the plan was Bowie was effectively on loan from Derby's under 21s, is it? Or under 18s.
I'm just waiting till Roy Keane takes it, because you know it's going to happen.
Yes!
Make
Roy
it
Keane's
happen.
taking
That job.
I want to see his post-match
interviews. It's at every game. He's going there at some point.
That'd be quite good. That'd be quite good.
Or just, Paul Scholes always comes in as interim. Let's give him a go.
What does he have as a manager?
Oh, that's the joy of it.
It's very funny. Very good. Any final comments on the final day in League Two? The other results were Morecambe obviously beat Bradford 2-0. Oldham lost to Forest Green 3-0. Port Vale lost to Mansfield 3-0. I'm looking forward to seeing a much brighter, better Mansfield next season. Scunthorpe lost to Stevenage next season, and if I have a dark horse side to go down next season, I have Scunthorpe already penned in place.
Is that a dark horse, really?
Dark horse to go down?
Yeah. No, well...
Is that the right word?
Probably not.
A bright horse?
Bright horse?
No, that makes it sound positive. What would be the terms for a dark horse relegation? I
don't think this is like an unlikely thing. They've been terrible this season. They've managed to not go down on the merit.
And they're losing all their best players.
Yeah, the only reason they haven't gone down is that Southend and Grimsby have just been absolutely woeful. And they only finished 3 points above Southend.
Exactly.
What a time for North East Lincolnshire.
Oh, dear me. Indeed. So, anyway, Dark Pony, or something of that matter. They are a team...
That could be Crepuscular Mustangs. That's what we could use it for.
No, Crepuscular Mustangs is a positive, Ed. Everybody knows that. It's such a well-used...
You used it to Crawley and look what happened.
I didn't do too bad. They did sell Max Waters, though, to be
12
fair.
points.
Yeah.
12 points they missed out by.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's not a good Yeah, maybe it hasn't had the magic. Carlisle drew 0-0 with Walsall. The team, again, need to decide what they're doing about their manager pretty quickly.
Keep him. Carlisle, sorry.
We'll see. Colchester, the fact that Tranmere drew with Colchester 0-0. Colchester, a team that, in the end, financial prudence kept them up, but nothing more. But they'll be in a good position off the field, I think, you'd imagine, next season because of it, or at least better than they would have been.
They had some issues going on. Was that a bit of a myth?
That's a load of bollocks.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I hear from people in the club. I did ask people I know in the club, and they said there's nothing wrong at all. So,
okay,
I'll take that as being. I'll take them at their word on that one. I don't know where the actual rumour initially started, but it was not to be true. We bid farewell to Southend and Grimsby. I'm very sad about that, but not at all surprised, frankly. And just wish them all the best. And I'll miss their fans. I really will miss reporting on them and interacting with their fans. But if you are a listener of the D3D4 football podcast and your team is going into the National League, go and follow our D5 football account. There should be a D5 football podcast next season, hopefully. We'll keep you posted on that one. It won't be... I have no time, so it won't be me. But Nathan, who does some really good interviews actually now on the D5 YouTube channel, hopefully he'll be putting together a team to do that. So that'd be interesting. And it's, National League is going to have some very good sides in it next year. Whether they're actually good. But the final positive is Grimsby's takeover is through. And the new owners look like they're going to be really good. So, excellent stuff. Right, the League 2 table. Before we go, Cheltenham finished top, Cambridge second, Bolton third, Morecambe fourth, Newport fifth, Forest Green sixth, Tranmere seventh, Salford finished eighth, Exeter ninth, Carlisle 10th, their disrupted season, but still improvement on previous years. Leyton Orient 11th, Crawley 12th, Port Vale 13th, Stevenage 14th. That's a pretty good position for them. Bradford, your outside bet for the playoffs, Ed, finished 15th.
Don't talk about that.
We mentioned Crawley before, to be fair. We've got to bring up Bradford in that prediction.
No, we do indeed.
Can we not go back to our pre-season predictions, please? Because I don't want to just have to... Oh, Lincoln, it's going in my head already. Oh, no.
Well, I did warn you guys, to be fair, I warned you. But anyway, Mansfield 16th, Harrogate 17th, Oldham 18th, pitched their traditional 17th place by 3 points. Walsall 19th, Colchester 20th, Barrow 21st, Scunthorpe 22nd, Southend 23rd, and Grimsby 24th. Guys, we are done for the regular season. All I can say is, Ed, thank you so much for being part of this.
Oh, I'm gutted it's actually over. I actually am. I know there's players to come, but you miss it when it's over.
You do indeed, though my wife probably doesn't.
I suppose.
And Chris,
some people miss it.
Chris as well, big thank you to you, mate.
Yeah, it's been great, and conversely, I'm delighted for this season to be over because it's just been terrible. Yeah. But I'll miss our podcast on a Sunday.
Indeed. Well, we've got a few more to come, playoff previews and stuff, and you are going to put your shoes out on Twitter, by the way. Don't let me forget that.
Remind me later. Again, they're not that bad. It's just I'm not saying they're the height of fashion. I would like to make clear now, but they're not that bad.
We'll be the judge of that.
Well, yeah, okay. we'll let our listeners judge that.
Okay.
And until our next pod, which I will be informing you guys probably on Twitter when it will be, we bid you adieu.